Okay, hello all you fine people. This is Inkarnate, welcoming you back to the Mind's Eye Inquisition and my Nosferatu AfterShock. So this is my reaction. I spent a little bit more time than I wanted to because I'm doing this video because I absolutely wanted to make sure that I was able to gather my thoughts. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss any of the details that I wanted to discuss for this live stream reaction video. So I do apologize for that. I am back from the theater, obviously. It just took a little bit more time to do this video because, like I said, I wanted to make sure that I gave it some thought. I wanted to make sure that I jotted down my ideas and I didn't miss anything. And I'll get into two items that I missed in my previous video, but let's jump right in. I'm not one to ever mince words, and I won't do that here. Having said that, is this a bad movie? No. Is it a good movie? Yes. Is it a great movie? No, I am afraid not. So let's get right into my discussion and elaboration on those points. So, one thing I did note about this, and this was kind of hinted at in the trailer as well, there are moments that are like gray washout, like complete saturation of color. Now, that can get overdone in the genre and in certain movies. Here it was done to very good effect because it really does create an atmosphere and a mood. And I mean, this is a gothic film, so it's understood that that would be part of it. So again, while that can be like nauseating, for instance, in one of my more recent live streams, I spoke about how when I was discussing the Forever Winter Overcast, I discussed how post-apocalyptic films of the 2000s, it was so overdone to the point of boredom, but here it's necessary to create a mood, and it's a gothic setting, so it's something that you would expect. The mood is good in this movie, but I gotta be honest, it's too bleak at the expense of characterization. Now, mind you, I like a serious tone in my movies, in my horror movies, but even leaving the theater, I thought back to other serious horror movies like The Shining or Candyman in an attempt to recall what those movies had to balance the dread or somber ambiance. And I think that there was just not enough, there just wasn't enough like emotion from the characters, and the bleakness was almost oppressive, you know what I mean, in the movie. So just a bit too much of that. I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more, just more character out of the cast. Speaking of mood, there is a great scene in the beginning during the leading man's journey to the domain of the monster where the trees rose so high and formed such a thick grouping that they actually choked out the sunlight. Excellent use of scenery. I thought that was really well done. There were a few lulls in the first third of the movie that I think should have and could have been tightened up in order to maximize the film's runtime and add some much needed character moments for the cast. I do like that Nock and the stand-ins for Jonathan and Mina Harker, aka the Lovebirds, They do get more screen time than their Bram Stoker counterparts. I just wish that we got more personality out of them. Now, they do really well to serve as like harbingers. And what I mean by that is I like when the fear factor of a movie comes from the survivors, because it demonstrates a level of, what's the word that I'm looking for? It serves the immersion of the movie, and it allows for almost a counter immersion. And what I mean by that is usually you want characters that you identify with as like your lead into the movie. They are your channel with which you step into the movie. When you see how it is that these characters react and the fear that they have over what's happening around them, the scenario and the situation, it has this reverse effect of like almost like transferring the emotions that they're portraying onto the viewers, which is the audience. So I thought that they did a really good job with that. Kudos to the actors for their portrayals. My biggest takeaway from this movie is that I was left wanting. I wanted more of the gypsies, and hell, more out of Castle Orlok. And that's whenever I say that, I hope it's understood that that is not a knock against the movie. It's just I would have liked to. It's not that there's something missing. I just would have liked to have seen more of what was already on display. So if anything, it's something, I always consider that something of a compliment. Like, hey, you're doing something good. More of that. More of those ingredients or those portrayals that you're already properly depicting and displaying. I would have liked to have seen the location of the Count's domain become a character unto itself in the torture of the leading man. And I would have liked to have seen what it meant for Nosferatu to hold dominion over his domain. I liked that the warning of the gypsies was repeated by the nuns to the leading man over what was going on and what he was enduring. So it served not only to reinforce the dread that he was experiencing, but also, like I kept mentioning in my teaser gut reaction to the first trailer, in my precaution, my preview before watching this movie, I liked that they were showing in the trailers so many different kinds of people that were reacting to this menace and what each of them represented. The clergy representing Orthodox religion, the gypsies representing like the old world and villagers and superstition, and the aristocracy, men of reason, you understand. So I liked all that, and again, I really liked how you get the nuns and the gypsies giving the same warning. Willem Dafoe's character is, he serves as something of a bridge between the superstitious and the civilized world, which I liked. I really liked, not just that Nosferatu is treated as a bringer of rot and pestilence, like his area of effect does a great job to show that when he's in town with a few days to kill, any area that hosts his presence immediately falls under his sway. I wish werewolf movies would incorporate this feature. In fact, the film goes so far as to portray his habitation in Germany as apocalyptic, what with the spreading of disease and death. Again, I wish that we got to see more of this. The effect that Count Orlok's arrival has as the cobblestone streets begin teeming with rats and epidemic and decay. For anyone who's watched my content, I'm not a gorehound by any means. I don't find it a necessary ingredient in even slasher movies. However, this film really could have used a higher body count. And again, not for the blood and the gore, but just to depict how menacing this creature is and what it is that he would, the havoc that he would wreak upon the land. And yeah, when I say body count, I ain't referring to Lily Phillips. Certainly, plenty of men have dug into her lately, but I digress. Two aspects again that I forgot to mention in my precaution is A, the occult, and B, sexual overtones. The film definitely delivers on both. The trailers revealed this was something darker than even the gothic, with the reveal of the book that Willem Dafoe consults, and the film depicts this in spades. In fact, not to spoil anything, but there is a certain contract that the protagonist was sent to Castle Orlok to finalize that got my mind racing with thoughts of a Faustian bargain. Sure enough, pieces of gold sealed the deal and his fate. And what every good contract has is a deadline. I'll say no more. This brings me to the sexuality of the film. So, I had heard word of this in articles and interviews, and thought this an interesting addition. While this ingredient would typically be identified with Nosferatu's distant relative, I was curious as to how director Robert Eggers would pull this off, given that Count Orlok is more associated with a rodent than a romantic figure. Trust in the fact that the carnal pleasure presented in this adaptation is just as bestial. So kudos to the film for that. Getting back to the more dark arts of the old world, I had wondered if the hold that Nosferatu has on the likes of the leading lady and Nock, who is this movie's version of Renfield, would lapse into possession. And sure enough, the Count holds them both in what you could call his death grip. The movie isn't as scary as I would have thought or had hoped for. There are certainly pretty monstrous scenes, but I had hoped for a little more. And this ties back to the need for this movie to have had a higher body count. The final look of Nosferatu isn't as iconic as I hoped as well. Bill Skarsgard certainly does disappear into the role. It's funny because before I came online for this live stream, I saw what was an early rendition, like a sketch of one of the preliminary designs for him, and I thought that sketch looked better than what we have inevitably got. I'm not downplaying this movie at all. I would absolutely recommend it to others, but to me, it presents what could have been an opportunity. Well, yeah, it presents an opportunity to load the bases rather than a chance to hit a home run. And that latter part is what I was hoping for. So, a bit of a disappointment, I can't lie. There are interesting portrayals and scenes. That Faustian bargain that I mentioned, that is an interesting wrinkle, and that's what that does satisfy the hope that I had with Robert Eggers behind the scene directing this film, that he wouldn't just do, you know, a beat for beat regurgitation of the 1922 classic. I was curious to see what additions he would provide, and sure enough, he didn't disappoint in that regard. I just wish that the lulls in the movie would have been shored up some, that we would have gotten much more character moments. I do wish it had been scarier and the design of Nosferatu would have just been more memorable. But this was a good movie. I am glad that I saw it. I would absolutely recommend it. And now that it is out, I am curious to see what the reception will be. So that pretty much wraps this up for me. If you haven't watched my precaution, which was my movie preview prior to heading out to the theater, I would invite you to do so. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe to my channel, no matter which platform you're watching this on, and be sure to check the link in the description for my socials. I have one link that links to all other socials that I would invite you to. I've been Inkarnate from the mind's eye, reminding you, I ain't just a big deal, I'm the real deal.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.